hope everybody will be glad to have joined us this evening because I think we're now entering into what uh, could safely be said to be the real crux of the matter here in terms of our practice of the Heart Sutra. I think if you have uh, some sort of understanding of what's being conveyed by Shahaku in the section he's titled Both Sides. The Heart Sutra will definitely begin to open up for you. And you'll be very well primed for Sandokai when we do finally get around to that. So we're going to encounter Nagarjuna. I have occasion to bring him up from time to time, but Shahaku brings him up in this section for good reason, as we'll see. So you'll maybe get to take an even deeper dive than we have in the past in terms of what Nagarjuna was teaching and its ramifications for the Prajnaparamita literature. So we begin this section with Shahaku telling us that it's important that we remember that Prajnaparamita is something to be practiced. That it is an activity. It's unique among activities, though, because we can think of other, I'll call it methodology, something like a scientific method, wherein we can also gain through its practice an understanding of the world around us. However, I think very few scientists would see that endeavor as kind of defining their entire life and everything they do within their life. They see they're doing science and then living your life. There's certainly some connectivity there, but I've never encountered any scientific writing that talked about adapting that kind of methodology to guide you through your life. And for good reason, because it would kind of fall short for some of the essential aspects of life in terms of any kind of value judgment. What should I do? And we're going to get into that, this matter of picking and choosing. I think that's a good crossroads with which to see how Prajnaparamita has to be something that's practiced. It isn't something that we gain and hold in our mind. We have to be able to embody it, enact it. And we're going to closely look into that. And the way we embody it and enact it is all encompassing. There's nowhere it does not reach. So there are many methodologies out there. Ways to do this, ways to do that. But Prajnaparamita is the attempt to understand the deepest subject matter, ourselves and the universe, as one whole package. Who am I, and how does that relate to the reality I find myself in the middle of? This is what prajnaparamita is being practiced. And you may recall from last week that the practice of prajnaparamita is not different from the practice of zazen. That's an important point here. Another important point that Shahaku speaks to in this section is that this practice, this prajnaparamita, this wisdom, is to be practiced with our whole body and mind. Another important distinction between scientific method and what we're speaking of here. Whole body and mind. We bring everything we have to it. So including things that scientists might see as being hindrances, our emotional being. We have to bring that too. Our desires, our samsaric selves. It's the only way we can engage this practice with our whole body and mind as it is here and now. Now, what the Heart Sutra is telling us, is trying to impart to us, is that through this practice of prajnaparamita, with the whole body and mind, we become one with emptiness, the emptiness of the five skandhas, the emptiness of all beings, the emptiness that we are and that we are firmly embedded within. So we become one. That's Shahaku's term. I tweak that just a little bit and say we realize our oneness, because we are one. So it's a little misleading to say we become one. It seems to suggest that we're not. And then through this practice, we kind of achieve some kind of a merger. The merger is already there. We just have to see it, to realize it, to awaken to it. That's why we're called Buddhists, awakened ones. We awaken to that fact. And this becoming one, we've encountered this in the past. The name that's often given for that is samadhi, becoming one with. And that's the connection with the practice of zazen. Zazen, prajnaparamita, becoming one. Samadhi, no difference. So this practice of wisdom is the practice of seeing our oneness. But as we will see, as we go through this section, seeing the oneness, what makes this such a marvelous realization is that the oneness occurs within diversity, within the myriad things. It's not that there's only one thing. If there was only one jewel that was shining, well, that would be all there is. It's not. It's all these individual jewels that together are creating this one great burst of light. But within that burst of light, we can detect all these individual reflections of light. So this while Shahaku does not speak in this section to Indra's net, but I think it's an apt metaphor, especially on the heels of our exploration of the Huayan teachings, immediately preceding our look at Shahaku's text on living by vow. It's appropriate for us here because that's what we're talking about, is experiencing this oneness, not just as oneness, but as the five skandhas, as the myriad things, that they're all within that oneness. So what we might see as being different, perhaps even contradictory, all is one, yet it's also made up of all these myriad things. And prajnaparamita involves seeing, realizing both of those truths together. And then in our practice of it, it means living our life as an embodiment of that understanding so that we can freely function within the world of the myriad things. So we don't just have to go off to the mountaintop, so to speak, and spend the rest of our lives there in contemplation. This is a very active practice. It's really where it becomes fine-tuned. I was talking to Glenn before we got started this evening how when I was going over my notes for tonight, it kind of dawned on me, always looking for musical examples of these Dharma teachings, that it's kind of like the jazz student learning his or her craft in the classroom, in various performance ensembles at the university, how to play things in a certain way, basic rudiments of music theory, and then to be able, of course, having all that knowledge is not to be a jazz musician. You haven't perfected it. You haven't taken it to the level of the jazz paramita. There's definitely a jazz paramita that needs to be included in the list. And in order to do that requires taking all that foundational knowledge and actually embodying it, practicing with others. And it involves letting go of self, for instance, seeing the emptiness and being able to play within the emptiness. And in doing so, making some beautiful creations. That's what we do as Zen practitioners. Every day in the course of our normal everyday lives, we're doing that in our interactions with others. It just happens. It's not that we're setting out to do that. We don't have to-do lists that involve, these are the steps I need to follow in order to embody the practice today. We simply do it by being present with whole body and mind in this situation, whatever this situation is, with whomever is present, if anybody. Just bringing yourself and your understanding of the emptiness of all things, the interconnectedness of all things. Remember, those are equivalents. The emptiness of all things is the interdependence of all things. We know that. We realize it, and we always bring it in all of our interactions. And yet that doesn't hinder us from making distinctions. And we're going to get into that a little further on. It's so very, very important. So when the faith in mind, in the very beginning of that piece, and maybe that'll be our chant for Saturday morning. We haven't done that one in a while. It begins talking about, attaining the way is not difficult. Just avoid picking and choosing. What a koan to start that off with, because of course you can't avoid picking and choosing. It's thrust upon us as living beings. We can't continue as living beings without picking and choosing. And Shahaku discusses that in some detail in this section. But what we don't do now, because of our understanding of emptiness, of prajnaparamita, we don't cling, we don't attach to whatever it is we choose. We understand. As the Yogi Berra koan puts it, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Brilliant. It truly is. As opposed to, when Kimberly and I were watching, in my case for the second time, The Good Place, there's a character in there, Chidi, who can't do that. Because he needs to keep processing, thinking it through. What's the right choice? What's the best choice? Well, it could be this, or no, it could be that. It's like that could go on into infinity. So as a result, never picks the fork. Ultimately, he gets cured of that, but it takes many, many years, many rebirths, many reboots, I should say. So that is a problem that we encounter. Because one of the things, so what he was doing and what we do when we get stuck is we want to make a choice that we can hold on to. We firmly believe in it, and we're attached to it. That's the right choice. I researched this, and my choice was the right one. That's important to us. So what this section is telling us, as we begin to look at conventional truth and absolute truth, is that in the realm of conventional truth, there's nothing to hold on to. That's the penetration of emptiness through all things. So we can choose that fork in the road, and to choose it with wisdom, we make that choice with an open hand, opening the hand of judgment, certainly of clinging, because opening the hand is not clinging. We're giving up our need to cling. So every time we reach a fork, there's a dharma gate. And the dharma gate isn't about making the right choice. It's about how do you relate to the choice you do make. We've seen this in Zen stories. It's not about what the monk is doing. It's about their relationship to what it is they're doing. Are they attached to it? That's a problem. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Doesn't matter. It's the attachment. That's where our practice takes us, is to work with attachment. And if we go through life seeing things clearly, then we won't attach. Because seeing things clearly is to see their emptiness, the interdependence of all things. So as all things continue to change, well, of course, our choice will probably need down the road to be modified again. It's not about looking back and saying, "Oh, I screwed up." It's just seeing that now something else makes sense. Being able to do that. Whether that choice is the right one or not. But just be able to go there. Recognizing its interdependence with the myriad things, far beyond all the things you could possibly program in your head, or more relevant to our time, could feed into an AI program. Because that's who's going to be making our decisions, already is to a considerable extent. But guess what? There's no such thing. Don't worry about the better choice, the wrong choice. It's kind of, it will be a shame when we end up turning that over to another vehicle, a computer program. At least we have the ability to cast blame elsewhere. But it's not about blame. It's not about blame. Just being able to live our lives. And part of living those lives is choosing the fork. But soon the algorithms will not just be consulting with us, but they'll be doing everything. At least we seem to be well on that path. So when we come to this matter of the emptiness of the five skandhas, which is body and mind, remember that. Five skandhas is simply the five elements that make up body and mind, with form being body, and then feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness being mind. So that's.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Five something.
Skandhas.
Skandhas.
Yeah, sometimes referred to as aggregates.
Oh, okay.
But that's what they're referring to, is kind of the core. It's a way of seeing the core elements that make each of us up. Body and mind. Now, and it doesn't matter if they're up to that task. Of course, in contemporary terms, if someone felt the need to update that list, maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm not suggesting it would be. But I have never, oddly enough, encountered an updated list of the aggregates. We would undoubtedly look at it a little bit differently now. But the important thing is what they represent. It's us, broken down into whatever categories we want to ultimately break it down in. It's the way we see ourselves. So to say that the aggregates are empty is to say we are empty, and all other things are also empty. And emptiness simply means, it doesn't mean they don't exist. It means they don't exist independently. They don't have substantial being. Like a soul, a notion of a soul is often seen as having substantial reality. It's not dependent on anything. It's not dependent upon the continued life of your body. It will live on. It will live on after the planet Earth gets swallowed up by an expanding sun. The soul would still continue on. So that's, whether that is reality or not, that's the way it's perceived. And that's an example, a rather strong example of something that definitely is not empty, is not interdependent. It has substantial being in and of itself. And so the Buddhist teachings on emptiness are teachings that say nothing exists in that way. So we all are just these elements of interdependent existence. We are part of that web, but we ourselves are always changing. So the Buddhist teachings of impermanence come into play here. Nothing is fixed. Nothing at all. Certainly about us. What is it, every 7 years, I think, that every cell in our body has been replaced. So it's like the old koan about if you replace every plank in a ship, is it the same ship? No? If you replace every cell in your body, is it the same body? Am I the same person as a little kid that went off as a kindergartner 70 years ago? We attached our sense of self, so we want to say, yeah, hell yeah. But where's that identity? So these are all embedded in the Buddhist teachings on emptiness, on shunyata, on interdependence as the nature of everything that we encounter and our own nature. So when we see things in that fashion, what is there to cling to attach to? Everything is changing. Everybody we know is mortal. The syllogism begins with the basic truth: all beings are mortal. That's one way of pointing to the impermanence of all things. The syllogism goes on to say Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Everybody you fill into the second line, whatever their name is, whoever they are, they're mortal, they're impermanent. Their existence is empty in the sense that they are interdependent. Our bodies are interdependent with the world around us, and they're constantly changing. We're not fixed. And we have to be careful in terms of our sense of identity. It's a conventional truth, which as such is useful. So we can have a treasure that remains the same from week to week, and a checking account that also has a certain identity. And those two have a steady relationship that we can count on. But yet, the checking account ultimately isn't going to survive. Joe, sad to say, ultimately isn't going to survive. None of us are. And nothing that we have is going to survive. That's our world. That's our world. So it might seem that to live our lives with that understanding would be a major downer. Like, why would you want to do that? But actually, to see the impermanence of all things is to see how precious they are. If everybody was going to be around forever, it would actually become dull still. Everybody would be the same. And they're never going to change. So it's a way of seeing, when we understand the greater whole, it is to overcome the dilemma of birth and death. which is the final link in the 12-fold chain of dependent co-arising. It begins with ignorance, ignorance of the oneness of all things. Ignorance is seeing oneself as separate. And it ends with old age, with birth and death, with birth and death. And this is our great concern, the thing that leads many people to religion, is to come to terms with death. And Buddhism has a rather unique way of dealing with that, as opposed to just stipulating that you have an eternal soul that will go off to heaven and everything will be great. Well, a good place that this TV show also kind of sends that up, that whole notion. People that are in heaven, it's a horrible existence. Only their brains have turned into mush by this point. Brilliant people that they're alive for all eternity. They're just living in bliss, but it turns out not to be so blissful. So they come up with a new innovation. They're going to put up a portal that when you've had enough of immortality, you can walk through and end it all. Moksha, as Eastern thought terms, final extinction. And that becomes kind of an inevitable final result. Everybody's going to want to do that. So this thing about finding salvation through our fabrication of an eternal soul, there are people that aren't so sure that that's actually such a great thing if we actually experienced it, if that was the reality. Maybe that's hell, actually. That could be hell. So the good people actually get to go through the portal right away. The ones that are being punished, they go to heaven first until they can't take it anymore. And then they can go through the portal. And they go voluntarily. That's the beauty, the poetry to that whole thing. That's wonderful. And all of it is just to kind of open ourselves. It's not saying, that's the way. But what makes it so great for me is that it's really opening us up to be able to see these matters in a different light. And how wonderful is that? Because the problem with fixed views, our clinging and our attachment, is that we kind of shut down the ability to see things in a different light. Because we know what the right way is. So the light's right here. I've got it. I see it. And that's the core teaching of interdependence, of emptiness, is that there is no fixed view. So part of the Eightfold Path is right view. And right view is actually no fixed view. So of course we have views. So you can have a right view that's in alignment with all the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. So and it would be in alignment with the paramitas or any of the lists. So you're living a virtuous life. You practice letting go through something like zazen. You cultivate your prajna, your wisdom, and then your views will be compassionate views grounded in wisdom, but they're still views. So you hold them openly, open to hearing other views, recognizing that any view by its very nature is limited. Even the teachings on emptiness. And Shahaku gets into that in this section. So important because people will figure, well, at least we've got emptiness, thank God. This isn't just completely all nihilistic. I've got emptiness, and I'm holding on to that. But it's empty too. It's just, and as Shahaku terms it, it's just a term. It's interdependent with language and all this sense of how meanings are derived. So there is nothing that we can turn into an absolute. Even this teaching on interdependence, on emptiness, we can't do it. So these are all just ways of kind of pointing us in the right direction. But there's nothing to hold on to and say, this is it. Which is also the importance of living our lives. It's not that I've got it and it's up here. I've got the right language for it. I've got the right understanding. We have to actually embody it. We have to live it. We have to practice it. And that's ongoing. It's continuous. So we can't say, well, I practiced it this afternoon. So, hey, round of applause.
You could say I practiced this afternoon, but that was the end. That's not the end of it.
It's not the
It's
end.
not feel complete.
Right, right. So that's why this practice is in the moment. It's always in the moment. But the things we can hold on to, we want to say, I did that. So that counts. And that's the way we kind of take this notion of karma and really twist it all around. The things we've accomplished that we can carry with us. Our karma account. Bank accounts and our karma accounts. And I know there's an accountant somewhere who's keeping those records, my karma account. Unfortunately, I can't access it online, but I know it's out there somewhere. And I'm just guessing that I probably have a good balance there. And that's how we turn this practice into something we can hold on to. We can calculate, we can say, this is my current balance. We want that so bad. And this practice helps us not really want it. Seeing that is the problem. It is a problem. That then becomes a huge source of worry. And that's also actually in the good place. They have a point system by which everybody who dies, they're evaluated. What was their point score? And because of the complications of life, nobody was getting enough points to go to heaven. So everybody was going to the bad place. Nobody to the good place. That instituted the rebellion. There's something wrong with the system. It stinks. Who would create such a system? And they were actually able to get it overturned. Amazing. Only in Hollywood. But it really, I keep bringing that into it because it speaks so well, I think, to our tendency to create things we can hold on to and grasp. And that's not what this practice is. It's not. Thank goodness. So that when I'm interacting with people, I'm not concerned about what I'm accumulating from it, what they're accumulating from it, just to be able to to meet another being carrying Buddha nature and have that kind of like two jazz musicians playing together, even if it's for the first time. You know, it's easy with you folks. We play together all the time. This is a well-polished ensemble here. But even meeting somebody for the first time, it's like, just be present with that individual and see what comes from it with openness, no expectations, and no objectives. What a wonderful way to go through life. Just being with one another. Nothing more, but nothing less than that being with on that basis of just fully being with. So another part of my past that I refer to every once in a while, because it was so filled with dharma, was back when I was a hospice volunteer, visiting people who are in the final stages of their life. So this is a chance to really practice being with people for whom their life, they are understanding how precious it is. And to be able to just be with them, period. There's absolutely no objective. How could you have an objective for somebody that's about to die? And they know it. I know it. So it's a beautiful setup for just being present with in this moment. And with no expectations. And understanding the true value of just being present with. And that's, of course, a lesson that's not limited to just being with a hospice patient. We take that and everywhere. And it completely changes how we do interact with people. Just to be present with them. Period. Period. With openness, with kindness, all those things that allow us to be with somebody, really be with them. Because if we come in with a closed mind, we're not really with them. Or we're not with them in their full richness. We're with them in a very limited, narrow sense. What's if it's a would-be customer? So you have a mission, an objective, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to leave that encounter with a sale in hand. But to just have an encounter with somebody, not try to impress them, not try to do anything, but just be present with them. Period. See how simple life can be? Wow. Stress levels would plummet. Therapists would be out of work, be an economic disaster. That really would impact the world in a major way. But we have our conventional reality, which I guess we'll spend next Thursday really turning our attention more fully to that. Because the other thing I want to make sure we leave here tonight with is this understanding that we spend so much effort And it's necessary that we do this when we begin the practice to understand the emptiness of all things. Because that's a big hurdle. And it's only after that that we can circle back around and re-enter the conventional world and relate to it again from an enlightened frame of reference, understanding its emptiness and the fact that it's grounded in interdependence and nothing exists on its own independently with some sort of substantial reality. Everything is interdependent with myriad things. It's not just a linear causal pattern. It's the type that's more aptly described by Indra's net. We're reflecting the light that's coming in from all these jewels around us. So it is with how we are in this moment. It's the result of all these past beings have made their contributions to my experience right here, right now. So if I can empty myself of a sense of self, I open myself to allowing the myriad things to come through my being, my experience right here and now. But I have to let go of self, or that can't happen. It's impossible. Because all that's here then is me. If I empty myself of me, now everything can come flowing through. And it does. It does. Because that's its nature. So religious people with a belief in God, I can speak their language too. It's just that God's there, kind of like waiting. Patience, the paramita of patience. God is the exemplar of that. He or she or it is always there waiting for us to awaken to the ultimate truth, the truth that runs through all things. So we have to travel down that path first so that we can have that understanding. And of course, that's what the Heart Sutra is all about. But it does have that phrase about that which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness is form. And that's where Shahaku then comes in with his teachings about Nagarjuna's distinction between absolute truth and relative truth. So that we can understand both sides of that. That which is form is emptiness. That's understanding emptiness, it's everywhere. There's nothing that escapes its reach. So that which is form is emptiness. We understand everything is empty. But that which is emptiness is form. Now that, after we've understood the emptiness of all things, that can kind of cause us to pull back and go, whoa, I thought the primal thing was emptiness. But it's kind of pulling us back from that. There is no primal thing. It's saying that which is emptiness is form. It's the myriad things. So they all of a sudden reappear now. But it's in a different light. So if you pull out your copy of Genjo Koan, read those opening lines, and that's what it's about. In its shortened version that we all know, first there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. That's basically what's being described here. First there's a mountain, there are the myriad things. But once we understand the emptiness of everything, then there is no mouth. There are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue. But that's not the end of our journey. We have to come back again. And as the 10th Oxfordy picture depicts it so nicely, we come back into the marketplace again. But we've been awakened to the true nature of things. So we can reintegrate with the marketplace, but it's in a very different way now, with open hands, without clinging, attaching, without self-aggrandizement, in competition. All that's gone. And as I was describing it earlier, to be able to have no objective in dealings, just to be present. Being with. Is our way of being with. Period. To be with from a standpoint of complete openness, and understanding our interdependence. So I'm interdependent with everybody that I'm interacting with, and they're interdependent with me and all other beings. And to have that understanding, rather than strategizing. How am I going to get this or that or this? No need to get any of it. Just be present with each other. And out of that, we manage to work things out. People settle into activities that are of benefit to the greater society. Doing things like baking bread, creating medicines, all the things that really take care of us. It'd be nice to live in a world where that was the only concern, rather than just gaining more and more and more and more of this conventional measure of worth that we call the monetary system. How wonderful. That wasn't what it was all about. It was just about finding ways of being service to others, each in our own unique ways. Wow. Utopian, right? Sure it is. But clearly not impossible. And maybe in our time, our dire time, we need some utopian imaginations to help get us at least on a sustainable path of some sort. So, any other? I know I kind of pretty much dominated. I think Doug was able to slip something in there. Anything?
Just an observation.
Yeah.
So my observation is that there's a certain format in Buddhist presentations. That's the first thing I would say, because I haven't been here for a while, although I listened at home, but it's quite different being here.
Mm-hmm.
And that format is the speaker presents, we sit quietly, and then at the end of that presentation, we're open to ask questions. But there isn't an animated get back and forth.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes questions come to mind
Right.
midstream.
Right.
that just isn't the way it works when Buddhist talks.
Yeah, we've certainly had that. I think I feel comfortable in saying this is the norm. And the reason being that it can become pretty disjointed. And I know I've experienced this myself in the past when we've been more open about people just if you have something come up, go ahead and throw in. And what can happen is it kind of starts to go in a few different
Dilutes
directions.
the message, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there is that because I mentioned the term samadhi, this ability to focus, to concentrate. And I think this is why, especially in Zen, it seems almost counter to the practice to have just a freewheeling exchange that when a talk is being presented, and this is the way I've generally seen it. Now there are classes, like we do a Jukai class where, I mean, that's a different format, but a Dharma talk is kind of this is an invitation to be with the Dharma in a different way and to really be focused. Because what happens is the self then is coming up and formulating questions, and I have a question. And then we go, boy, that was a good question. And we get all caught up in that stuff. Whereas if we just focus on what's being presented, and then either afterwards or and it doesn't even have to be a formal dokusan, but it could be. I mean, those are kind of nice things too, chances to have dialogue with the teacher, but even just more casually to be able to express questions. But I usually try to make sure there's plenty enough time at the end so that any questions can be presented then and there. But in terms of the reason for not having kind of I'll go so far as to call it a free-for-all, because occasionally it can become like that. And I've been party to that and just decided, no, we're not going down that road anymore. That's crazy. And I can remember a first-time visitor on one of those occasions was just commenting, boy, that really went to hell quickly. He was right. It did. So there is a place for Dharma talks, and I think they're of great value. I know I've listened to them through the years, a great many of them, and that's the way I've received them. It's just focusing. So myself kind of drops off, and I just become focused on the Dharma that's being conveyed. And then at the end, usually my questions I pack away for a dokusan because I want to have that exchange with the teacher.
Then that's the format. With you, at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you don't have to wait for dokusan. No, I mean, like I was saying, at the end of the talk, we have time for questions. But that's the reason. So I'm just an encouragement for people. But during a talk, it's a chance to practice zazen in the middle of a Dharma talk. But that's how you should receive the Dharma talk. Otherwise, it's our analytical thinking mind.
It's not much different than somebody going to a lecture.
Yeah,
Any lecture.
Exactly.
As a speaker, sometimes there's a Q&A afterwards, sometimes there's not.
Right.
But the speaker has their time to present.
Exactly.
So it's a little more in that tradition.
Yes. Yeah.
And then after a while, some kind of catching up again.
Yeah. No, but I'm glad you brought that point up.
I have another question. Is this the volume that you normally speak in these at these talks? It is. Because it's much louder when I hear it at home.
Okay.
Through the device. I mean, not that it's bad.
The power of amplification.
Yeah, it must be. That's I just hear it's amplifying it because it's always clear. I could record it because I can listen back to it.
Yeah.
But this in this space,
This is how
at the ends of the sentences, they kind of, which we do when we tend to finish a sentence. Our tendency to drop off the voice, but it's just that it's just different.
Yeah.
And I guess it is because the devices, there is amplification going on at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, different.
Always better live.
Well, the nice thing about, but this comes back to, the thing we talked about at Ardoko-san, which was, I think they were never to get into the nuts and bolts of that, which was like, if I'm going to volunteer to organize these talks, there's got to be some recognition of topic.
Right.
And one nice thing of recording them and coming back to them is that you can listen to them in their completeness or a section of them.
Exactly.
But they're accessible.
Yeah.
I still think that as I've been thinking about this, it would be, and I can't imagine anybody having the last word on a talk except for the talker, in this case you. So otherwise it'd be our interpretation of the talk. Does that make any sense?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because the talk isn't a substantial thing. Once it's given, it's out there.
And I think in the case of Zen, it's even less substantial. It can be very amorphous.
Yeah.
Because
It's like poetry. I mean, once the poet has written a poem and put it out there, there are all kinds of meanings that get pulled from it, and the poet's generally going to go, "Yeah, boy, I didn't see that," but then might say, "Wow, that's." I guess that is in there. How wonderful! It wasn't their intent, but it's just the nature of putting things out there, using language, because it triggers different things for different people. That's as it should be.
Hey, Dean.
Yeah, Mark.
I had a question. It was sort of a mid-dharma talk question about had to do with wondering, or maybe I forget, why do we chant the names of our ancestors? Because I guess the question came up because Shohaku talks about names are just provisional, right, and that they're empty. But I'm thinking that we chant the names of our ancestors sort of like out of respect for what they've contributed to the Dharma, to the teachings, and to our lineage.
Oh yeah.
Is that? I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course we recognize that there's a much longer list. There's a virtually endless list of people that have contributed to it. So it's just our way of making it more manageable, the abridged list, but it's actually representing all these figures who have carried these teachings and this way of life down to us.
Yeah,
so it's just another way of really dropping off of self and recognizing that this practice we carry on with beings we've never met, never will meet.
So it's just sort of like a connection.
Yeah.
Keeping a connection.
Interdependence.
Because I know Jikoji has a chant in their book with a whole big long list of names, and I think those are all male and female ancestors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the male names they have probably look a lot like the names on your Kachinyaku.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. 8:43, so we should probably go ahead and chant out. This has been rich. Thank you. I vow to myself and to each of you to commit myself daily to the healing of our world, and the welfare of all beings, to live on earth more lightly and less violently in the food, products, and energy I consume, to draw strength and guidance from the living earth, the ancestors, the future generations, and my brothers and sisters of all species, to support others in our work for the world, and to ask for help when I need it, to pursue a daily practice that clarifies my mind, strengthens my heart, and supports me in observing these vows. Of course, in closing, I have to point out that this Saturday, for those with questions, that's occasionally we have a Saturday where that's all we're doing. No Dharma talk, just questions. So bring your questions.
Thank you, Dee.